Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Wednesday, May 10th already. Holy cow. Midday Market Report, but it's our weekly segment with the one and only Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer, at Heat Stokes Pod, talking PGA, and this week the Byron Nelson, just 1 week before the second major, the PGA Championship. Last weekend, Wyndham Clark holds off the X-Man. And I'm going to start the show by asking Brady the same circumstance that happened the week before on the live betting aspect. And then we'll get into last weekend and obviously this weekend, his thoughts, his first-round leaders, his pre-flop potential winners, and, of course, his head-to-head matchup. So without further ado, let's bring him in, Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Jeffrey Dawson, how are you, my friend? Another week on the PGA Tour, and like you say, just 1 week away from the second major. I started looking at the PGA Championship almost a month ago, about 3 weeks ago, and I'm getting excited. It's up on your side of the country anyway, Rochester, New York, Oak Hill Country Club, and I think this is going to be an absolute beast of a golf course, and it's kind of been good for us handicappers that we're really getting a taste of what's going to be required here for the last 3 weeks on tour. It started with the Mexico Open at Vedanta, and then the following week you had the Wells Fargo Championship at Quail Hollow, and now we have the Byron Nelson. All three of these courses are big, long golf courses. So, take that into your account, take that into account when you're handicapping the PGA Championship, which is another big, long golf course. It's going to be more narrow off the tee. Certainly there won't be as much room in these fairways, wide fairways here at TPC Craig Ranch this week, wide as well in Mexico, not as wide as at Quail Hollow, but maybe even more pinched at Oak Hill. But the point is you're going to need guys that can really drive the golf ball, and they're going to have some length, and they're going to have to be good with long iron play. And that's been pretty true, going to be true this week and has been the past couple weeks as well. So, the PGA calendar has kind of been kind to us in a way that it's giving us a little bit of a prelude to what might be needed next week at Oak Hill.
The intro, I talked about this, and I think it was 2 weeks ago, Sunday. I think it was John Rahm was sitting 1 or 2 strokes back. You could have got him at plus 150. We talked about that. Wake up Sunday morning, and there's Wyndham Clark in the lead before they all tee off. And there's Xander Schauffele, a name that everyone knows. Not a lot of people know Wyndham Clark. Could have grabbed Xander plus 150 before the boys went out on Sunday. To myself, that's a red flag saying, damn it, because I had Xander in one of my one and dones. And I said to myself, he's not going to win today, is he? Is that a red flag? When you saw that number, were you sitting comfortably that it was going to be Wyndham Clark or, let's say, someone from downtown? Or did you think that Xander was going to potentially come back and win that tournament?
I didn't think it was going to be Xander, and I'll be honest with you, I can't recall looking at the numbers exactly on Sunday. Now, I was definitely interested heading into Saturday. I wrote an article for the PGA Tour. I do so every Friday evening after they make the 36-hole cut on who I would like to back heading into the weekend and who I would go against heading into the weekend. And Wyndham Clark was number one on my list to go ahead and back heading into the weekend. He was at 10-1 at that point and had a 2-shot lead. Nate Lashley was also tied for the lead, but this is a relative, newcomer to that stage. Wyndham Clark is, and as evidenced, we know now, but Wyndham Clark is a very good player. And I've actually been on Wyndham Clark. You probably know from being here on the show, narrowly missed with him at the Zurich Classic when he was teamed up with Bo Hostler, but I've had him in a few different bets, first round leader and that type of thing for the past 6 weeks or so. And unfortunately, I did not land on him for the Wells Fargo. But like I say, at the halfway point, I was on him, and Xander Schauffele was actually one of my fades. I did have a longer shot that I thought had a shot to maybe make some noise, and that was Gary Woodland, and he did end up making some noise. So I was right on those two fronts. Now, in my handicap of fading Xander Schauffele, that wasn't exactly correct. He didn't fall off the map by any means. He was in the thick of it, but he didn't win at the end of the day. And my reasoning for not backing him heading into the weekend is his first 2 rounds were very haphazard. He was good in this one day, and then he was poor in that same area. The next day, he'd be erratic off the tee. He was just, kind of all over the place those first 2 days. And I thought, I don't know how well that sits. I like to look at guys that are steady and don't have anything outlier or, one end of the spectrum. If they're putting completely lights out, that tends to regress. Or if they're missing fairways left and right, that will typically correct itself and they'll get the accuracy back. So when you see a statistic that is just way off one way or another, usually it'll come back to the middle. And so I like to kind of look at guys that are trending very steadily and are having a very even keel tournament so far. And Wyndham Clark was all about that, and Schauffele was not. And then he comes out on Saturday. Clark shoots, I think, 63, and Schauffele shot 64. And I was like, wow, I was wrong on that one. Well, he didn't end up winning, but Clark was my guy. And, I didn't think he was getting much respect in the market. He was 10-1 with a 2-shot lead. And then finally, like you say, on Sunday, moved to the minus money category. But I had kind of already put my chips in the table on Wyndham Clark. So I wasn't really paying too much attention, again, admittedly, on Sunday. At that point, I was just watching to do the research and take in the information and soak up the excitement there, what was going on. And, he stumbled out of the gate too. Schauffele, I think, had the gap closed to just 1 shot or might've been tied there for a minute, but hats off to Clark. Eventually he got his act together, and, it kind of came to fruition like we thought it would. And again, when you're giving me as a better 10-1 on a guy with a 2-shot lead, that is that good, I thought that was a little bit of a gift. And to your point, in fact, I had, written up that Xander Schauffele at the time was plus 650. He was a fade for me. And the other guy that was plus 650 was Patrick Cantlay, who was also, like 2 or 3 shots off the lead. So these big names tend to get so well respected. And I do believe it's also protection, because they know that the casual fan is probably going to gravitate towards those names and bet those guys, when really, you're getting a guy with a 2-shot lead that's almost twice the price. Sometimes it's best to go that way.
And I think that was a perfect way to explain that word protection. You watch the live board. I've seen John Rahm, I think it was 2 weeks ago, 9 shots back in the second favorite, and here he comes, -5, -6. I think in Mexico there. So I retweeted this, the emotion after Clark made the putt, hugs his caddy, shook hands with Xander. You could see the tears, like all the work that he has finally put together to basically, to pull it off and win the tournament, I should say. And I tweeted, this is what it's all about.
I think I saw that. Right.
Yes. And it was just an amazing little footage right there.
I'd agree with you. And I don't know if you've checked out our Heat Strokes podcast yet this week, but our guest co-host was Drew Stoltz, and you can catch him on PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM Channel 92. He co-hosts a show with Colt Knost, and they do a podcast, the Subpar podcast with Colt Knost, and of course, Colt is an on-course reporter. That's a lot of C's there. With CBS, and I think he does a terrific job, reporting, walking along the course with these guys. That's a new gig for Colt, but Drew and Colt as well, especially Drew, have been very close with Wyndham Clark. Drew was ever since they were kids. They grew up playing golf together. So it was very emotional for him as well. They spoke on the phone shortly thereafter, and we talked about that. Drew talked about it on the Heat Strokes podcast earlier this week, and some great stories there. But, they talked about it on the broadcast, how he's gone to see like a mental coach. We know he has the physical attributes. He can bomb it off the tee. He's got incredible touch around the greens. He's loaded with talent, but he just hasn't been able to close the deal. And I think it was some of the mental blocks that were holding him back. And he's been working on that very hard. And, then for it all to come true against an elevated field at a major championship venue, yeah, it's understandable that the emotion came out there on the winning putt on 18.
Shout out to Marty Lowe. Shout out to Brian Gaskell. Brian says to me, yeah, Jeff, thanks for the memories. We were going back and forth over the weekend, and we both had Xander in our one and dones on the
It's
Mayo.
still a pretty good finish.
Yes, it was. It was a very good finish. The week before a major, it gives me the willies. It's like some of these guys here to work on a couple shots, get in 2 rounds, and get out of Dodge. We're back in that predicament again. Scotty Scheffler on DraftKings, plus 360. The closest guy next to him is Tyrell Hatton at plus 1,200, Jason Day at plus 1,400, Tom Kim at 1,600, Matsuyama at plus 2,000. Jordan Spieth, having wrist injuries, has withdrawn. Initial thoughts on this is, again, I always say this, Tiger Woods in his prime numbers here. And no disrespect to Scotty, but if you gave me 100 to put on Scotty, I'd Venmo you 200 back and tell you to take the family out to dinner. I can't do it.
No, I'm with you. And Scotty could go on and win this golf tournament. He's at the top of all the stats and all the numbers you crunch and everything like that. But, I think this is a little bit of a parade for him, near his hometown. He went to University of Texas. He's going to go out there and do a meet and greet and play. And will he miss the cut? Probably not. I think he's probably too good to do that. But if you look at some of these events where, it's been a watered down field, not the big boy golf tournaments, not the elevated events, Scotty Scheffler has not fared too well. He's finishing 20th, 15th, 25th, somewhere in that, pedestrian for him. When you put him against the stiff competition in the big boy events, that's when you see him win at Phoenix, at the Players Championship, at the Masters last year. So he's been much more successful in the real deal tournaments rather than, the off events, if you will, like we have here this week. So that's even further reason that I don't want to bet him at such a short price. I did land on the next 2 guys, Tyrrell Hatton and Jason Day. Tyrrell Hatton has just been on an absolute tear this year. He finished 4th at Bay Hill. He was 2nd to Scotty Scheffler at the Players Championship. He was 19th at Harbortown the week after the Masters, and then just took 3rd last week at Wells Fargo. So he's been playing extremely well, and I just don't see him in practice mode. I think his foot is still on the gas, and he has won once before in the United States. He won at Bay Hill a few years back. I was actually on him at, I think it was 65-1 or something like that. That was awesome. And he played in some brutal wind that day as well. So, make a mental note there. Tyrrell Hatton can certainly play in the wind, and we are supposed to get some wind in McKinney, Texas this week. Jason Day is the question mark, Jeff. I don't know if first of all, I didn't get a great number. I got 16-1, and I've seen as high as 19-1 on Jason Day. He is drifting because I don't think people are necessarily buying into Jason Day being able to win this. And like I say, I think that's the question. He's been playing very well as well. Now, he missed the cut last week at Quail Hollow, and that's at a golf course in a tournament that he's won in the past. So I'm thinking that doesn't sit too well with him, especially going into the PGA, another major championship that he's won. I think he definitely wants to bounce back here. And I did play him for a first-round leader as well. I could see him coming out of the gate hot on Thursday. Now, what happens the rest of the way? I don't know, but I think there's more of a question mark with Jason Day. Is he here to tune up and practice, or is he serious about this? And I kind of lean a little bit towards the serious. Especially if he gets off to a good start. If he gets off to a good start, I think he's going to be in the mix. If he doesn't, then yeah, he may just pull back and miss the cut, or, finish a very pedestrian 50th or something like that he's done here in the past. But, those are the two guys where I probably have the greatest number of question marks as to what their motivation is going into the week before a major. But I think Hatton is 100% sold, and I'm not positive on Jay Day. It probably depends on what he does on Thursday.
Before I turn the full page over to you for your outrights and your rest of your selections, I'm seeing on some emails and some social media weather. You just talked about the wind. Is there potential rain, or were they talking more just the wind?
It's both.
Okay.
All week long, there was actually thunder showers in the forecast every day of this tournament. Now, it looks like Thursday has gone away as far as the rain now, but definitely potential strong chances of rain it's supposed to rain there today and really soften up that course. The course is already soft, and that was another thing about having Drew Stoltz on our Heat Strokes podcast this week. He talks to all these tour players, so he's getting inside information on what the course is like, and it's already extremely soft because they've had rain. They're getting more rain today. Not supposed to have it on Thursday, but supposed to have it throughout the rest of the tournament. And then your wind is going to blow anywhere from about 10 to 20 plus miles an hour. It's supposed to die down on Sunday, but you are going to have some conditions out there for sure. Now, the other thing is, and you know this, Jeff, 15 mile an hour winds in the springtime in Texas. That's Texas. That's nothing. And there's a lot of guys in this field, including Scotty Scheffler and a number of other local guys that either grew up there or currently live in the area now, that are used to that type of thing. I really think, and we don't often say this, and we can talk about this in a football sense too. We know that the biggest weather element is wind, and really almost in any sport, in baseball, golf, football, what have you, that affects the passing game, home runs, keeping balls in the ballpark. It affects a golf ball in a big way, especially when you get up to 15 to 20 miles an hour. But I think in this case, the rain is going to trump the wind as far as a bigger factor here, because this golf course, the fairways are so wide. You can be the worst, driving accuracy player on the PGA Tour, and you're probably still going to hit a lot of fairways this week. And even more so, because the golf course is so soft, the ball's not bouncing. It's not going to hit the fairway and bounce into a bunker or bounce into the rough. It's going to stop relatively quickly. Now, that could inhibit some of the shorter hitters on tour who don't have as much distance off the tee. But I still think those guys are going to be okay as well, because they're going to be able to find fairways pretty easily. And then the greens are going to be so wet and soft and receptive. The longer hitters are going to be hitting 7 and 8 iron, and the shorter hitters are going to be hitting 5 and 6 iron. And it just doesn't matter, because the greens are going to hold every shot. They're not going to bounce and kick off of the green. And obviously some of them are. I'm generally speaking here. But I think for the most part, this golf course is going to be so soft that finding fairways will be easy and hitting greens in regulation will be easy. And then you have big, flat, bent grass putting surfaces. I think this ultimately is going to come down to, Jeff, strong iron play and a hot putter. And if you do all that for 4 days, you're going to win this golf tournament. It's very interesting also. This was one of the top 5 easiest golf tournaments on the PGA Tour schedule for the past 2 years. This is TPC Craig Ranch, which they have just moved to this golf course 3 years ago. This will be the 3rd edition of the Byron Nelson at this golf course. The last 2 tournaments ended with the winner at 25 and 26 under par. Now, the winning score prop here in Las Vegas at the Westgate Superbook this week was 21 and a half. Okay. 262 and a half, under or over 262 and a half. And what that translates into is the winner's either going to get to 22 or better, or it's going to fall 21 or less. I bet it's going to get to 22 or more. I don't think the scoring is going to change much. And I think that number was adjusted because of this weather we're seeing. But as I've explained, these guys are going to know how to handle the wind. With the golf course so soft, I don't think the wind is as big of a factor. They're going to be able to hit these greens. It could be a dart show here. They're going to be throwing darts into these greens, and the guy with the hottest putter might walk away with the trophy.
Well, we won't talk too loud, so Jeff changes that number on us. How's that?
Jeff doesn't respect my bets. He hasn't moved it yet.
So far, you gave us Hatton Day. Here's where I give you the nice 90-degree soft lob over to you. Take it away on course conditions. First round, outrights, and then we'll go into the first round and head-to-heads.
Well, I mentioned Tyrrell Hatton and the run that he's been on. As far as the correlated courses this week that I used, courses that have a lot of comparisons to the course that we're playing this particular week. I used Port Royal, where they play the Bermuda Championship. I used Detroit Golf Club, where they play the Rocket Mortgage. I used TPC Scottsdale, which is another Tom Weiskopf design. This is a Weiskopf design, is TPC Craig Ranch. I used Pebble Beach. Now, Pebble Beach has very, very small greens. That's not a similarity, but it also has very big, wide fairways, which absolutely is a similarity. The Mexico Open at Vedanta, that's a comp course. So I use those courses to try and find, players that do well there, should do well here. And Tyrrell Hatton, by the way, finished 6th at the TPC Scottsdale for the WM Phoenix Open earlier this year. And just one better in 5th place was Jason Day. We know Jason Day at Pebble Beach is an absolute monster. 7 top 7 finishes in his career. I also use TPC Summerlin right here in Las Vegas, which does have big greens and big wide fairways. And Jason Day has a couple of top 10 finishes there. So I think all the stats definitely make sense for Jason Day. The comp courses make sense for Jason Day and Tyrrell Hatton. It's just the mental motivation. Is Day here for a warm-up, or is he here for a win? I'm hoping it's the latter. And like I say, I also made a little pizza money play on first round leader. And I think Jason Day very well could get off to a hot start. He's very good in strokes gained approach, the iron play. He's also long off the tee. So, if he's throwing darts at these flags, he is also one of the very best putters in the field. So it could all align for Jason Day if his mind is about winning this golf tournament. I also played Seamus Power at 45-1. The one thing that scares me here is he's been a little bit of a popular pick, but I understand why. He won the Bermuda Championship, one of my comp courses. He seems to be very good at easy golf courses when you have watered down fields. And he started off the year incredibly hot, had a good finish at Pebble Beach, another comp course. Like I say, he won the Bermuda Championship, and then he kind of went on the skids for a bit, but he came back last week and finished 18th at Quail Hollow. So maybe a little bit of a sign there. And now he goes into kind of his wheelhouse here, a watered down field, an easier golf course. He's an excellent putter, 10th in this field over the last 36 rounds for strokes gained putting on bent grass. So Seamus Power at 45, and then Brandon Wu at 65-1. This guy's been in really good form as of late. He just finished runner-up at finished in 3rd place at the Mexico Open at Vedanta and finished runner-up the year before. Again, one of our comp courses. He was also runner-up to Justin Rose at Pebble Beach. Again, another one of our courses earlier this year, back in February. Last 36 rounds, he's 29th in this field for strokes gained off the tee, 37th for strokes gained approach, 44th in hole proximity from 200 yards or better. That's where you're going to see a lot of these approach shots. And again, this goes into my, prelude to a championship, if you will. You're going to see a heck of a lot of approach shots from 175, 200 and greater next week at Oak Hill as well. So those are some iron players that you want to take a look at that can hit it close to the hole from those distances. And Brandon Wu in this field this week is one of them. And then Eric Cole at 80-1. We remember he lost in a playoff at the Honda Classic to Chris Kirk. He's been playing good golf this year. Just prior to that, he finished 15th at Pebble Beach. And just 3 weeks ago, he took 5th at the Mexico Open at Vedanta. Has been in good form, having a great year. He's one of the best putters in the world. and he's a good iron player. Over the last 36 rounds, he ranks 5th in this field for strokes gained approach. Now, he's not real long off the tee, and he's a little bit erratic off the tee. But again, as I've explained with the soft golf course, I think he's going to be okay in that department, and will have some opportunities to dial in those irons. And then strokes gained putting on bent grass over the last 36 rounds, he's 13th in this field. So he fits the formula there of a good iron player and a great putter. And then finally, my longest bomb was on Nate Lashley at 140-1. And kind of interesting, you and I were talking about, where we were at the Wells Fargo last week after 36 holes. Nate Lashley was tied for the lead with Wyndham Clark, but he's so new to that stage, I didn't feel his time was going to be right. Now, Wyndham Clark, we talked about this as well. We felt it would be a learning experience the way it kind of fell apart for him at the Zurich Classic. Well, sure enough, he's a fast learner. He bounced right back. That could be true for Nate Lashley. I think you need some scar tissue. And when you're at the top like that and it doesn't work out, that's a learning experience on the PGA Tour. So maybe this is a spot for him to bounce back against a much weaker field. He was tied for the lead after 36 holes, ended up finishing like 27th, I believe, but he's got the stats. He's got a top 10 finish, top 5 finish in his career at TPC Scottsdale. He's finished as high as 11th at Mexico. He won the Rocket Mortgage at Detroit Golf Club, another one of our correlated courses a few years ago, his only PGA Tour victory. And then as far as the approach game, really spot on with the irons. He is 7th in strokes gained on the par 5s. He is 1st and 5th, respectively, for hole proximity from 175 to 200 and then 200 yards or greater. So this guy has the game. And like we talked about with Wyndham Clark, it was just a mental thing. Maybe he learned some lessons when he had the 36-hole lead at Quail Hollow and now moves on here to the Byron Nelson. So those are the outrights. 2 short shots, a couple of guys mid-range, and a couple of long bombs as well.
I remember a couple weeks ago, Brian asked us a question about Brandon Wu, and he asked you the question, and that was the week that I think you said he finished 3rd. He was right up there. Was it 2 weeks ago, Brandon Wu?
3 weeks ago in Mexico.
3 weeks ago, yes. Mm-hmm. So, all right.
He's a good player.
Yes, I love the thought process. A couple up top, a couple in between, a couple bombers there. Works the bankroll real well there. You said Jason Day already as a first-round leader. Anyone else that you went to on first-round leaders?
Yeah, Jason Day, 33rd on tour in first-round scoring average. He's 15th for birdie average, and he's 3rd in bogey avoidance. So far in 2023, Jason Day on 9 separate occasions has shot a round in which he gained 3 or more strokes on the field. So he's got the ability to go low. Like I explained, as far as the outright play, he meets all of the criteria. It's just whether this is going to be a practice round or if his mind is set on winning this golf tournament. Matt Kuchar at 40-1 was another first round leader play I made. He's had, and another thing about Day that we have not mentioned yet, Australians have had great success in the state of Texas. And I think it has to do with the fact that they really know how to play in the wind. They're good British Open players. They're good wind players because they've grown up with that in Australia. So, more for the case of Jason Day, and it lines up with Matt Kuchar as well, who's had great success in the state of Texas. And I think that's in large part due to his very low ball flight. Now, he's not as long off the tee as some of these guys, but he's very accurate. He might just have a little bit longer iron shot into some of these greens. He's a tremendous putter, so he still fits the formula for me. Last 36 rounds, he is 14th in this field for strokes gained putting on bent grass. He's also 35th on tour for first round scoring average, and he is 6th on tour for bogey avoidance. He, like Jason Day, has also fired 9 rounds in 2023 that have gained 3 or more strokes on the field. And then not Brandon Wu, but I went to Dylan Wu for a first round leader at 80-1. He is 26th on tour in first round scoring average, 23rd in birdie average, and 35th in bogey avoidance. And the last 36 rounds, he ranks 24th in this field for strokes gained approach and 74th on tour in strokes gained putting. And as far as those low rounds where you're gaining strokes on the field in 2023, he's done it 8 times where he's gained 3 or more strokes on the field. So took a bomb with him at 80-1. And then I went back to Eric Cole, also at 80-1. He trails only Scotty Scheffler for rounds in 2023 where you have gained 3 or more strokes on the field. Eric Cole has done it 10 times, and that is second to only Scotty Scheffler on the PGA Tour. This guy is a heck of a putter, like I mentioned, 13th in this field for strokes gained putting on bent grass. He's 47th on tour in birdie average, 44th in first round scoring average, and 25th in bogey avoidance. Just finished 5th in Mexico. Of course, it's very similar here. He's also 10th on tour with 30 rounds shot this season in the 60s. So there's your first round leader, 4 plays for me.
Day, Kuchar, Dylan Wu, and Eric Cole there. Did you find any head-to-heads this week?
I did, and it was a little harder for me to find the head-to-heads this week than usual, but I ended up landing on 5 of them. And one of them that first jumped out to me, and I wasn't sure, you've talked about it, Jeff. We've talked about it a number of times. When you see that big juicy price, sometimes you feel like a sucker, but I've noticed that the line has moved in my favor. And early in the week, I got Tyrrell Hatton at plus 215 over Scotty Scheffler. And he has come down at one shop that I've looked at, I know, significantly. And we talked about Scotty Scheffler. He typically just doesn't seem to have as much motivation in these types of events as he does in the big boy tournaments. And I think Hatton's running real hot right now. So that number I got on Tyrrell Hatton to beat Scotty Scheffler head to head, I thought was pretty juicy until so I took a stab. Matt Kuchar went back to him at minus 125 over Adam Scott. Adam Scott has won in the state of Texas, played really well last week, but I like Kuchar this week over Adam Scott. Brandon Wu back on him at plus 110 over Aaron Rai. Eric Cole back on him. I've got him in every market here at even money over Sam Stevens. Now I have seen that one move towards Stevens. Cole I've seen as high as plus 110 in that matchup. And then Nate Lashley, I got a good number here, minus 110 over Robbie Shelton. I've seen Nate Lashley as high as minus 125 in that head-to-head.
Quick little Scheffler story. I don't know if I said it to you before. If I did, I apologize. I'm in a couple of the nationwide one and dones, and I used Scheffler as my one and done. And after the first round, he goes out and shoots -9, and he's leading the whole tournament. Well, after Friday's round, he wasn't leading, and he didn't make the cut. So I know that's Scotty Scheffler you're talking about.
I don't know if you have told me that one, but that's a tough beat right there. I've got a good story for you similar to that. And it's kind of why I've always admired Davis Love III. This is a 2-time Players Championship winner. Went out one day on the opening day, and I think he shot like 63. It might have been 64, but I think it was even lower. It was abnormally low round. I know one year he won it. He shot a Sunday 64 to win it in the rain. But I believe he opened with a 63 one year, and his playing partner was Jim Furyk. He came out the next day and shot like 75 and missed the cut. He went from first round leader to missing the cut. And afterwards, Jim Furyk said, you wouldn't have known the difference in the 2 rounds. Just the way his demeanor after every shot, he doesn't get too excited. He's not braggadocio. He doesn't get upset when he makes a mistake and throw clubs. He's just a very even-keeled gentleman. And I thought that was something to take away with you when you play the game of golf yourself.
100%. 100%. Shout out to Mr. Smooth himself, Sean Alvarez. Sean came on Saturday morning with us here at ECSI and gave us Mage, the winner of the Kentucky Derby.
He's the only other guy that I've heard gave him out. And I was lucky enough to be friends with Chris Andrews at the South Point, who gave me Mage as well. So, cashed a couple tickets there on the Derby. That was nice.
Yes, he gave us the exacta 2. We're giving him 2 weeks off till we get back to the Preakness. So
he's partying.
He's partying hard. Next week, the major, the second major. As we close here, I just have to ask you, your thoughts on the golfers, that take the week off to get ready, or how about the golfers that took the week off this week to get ready, but missed the cut last week? I got Rory on the top of my head here. Here's a guy that I know has another gear in the bag. I know there's a lot of great golfers out there, but when Rory is cooking with Crisco, as I like to say, there's no better golfer in the world. He can hit shots that no one else can hit.
I agree with you.
Any thoughts there? Was it up here? What was the issue? Because I
don't know
I'll
what
have
it is
Rory
with him
ticket
right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I bet on him at Quail Hollow last week, as you probably remember. I mean, he just made so much sense. He absolutely dominates that course. It's just a weird little funk that he's in right now. And he started out okay, and then he just kind of never put his foot on the gas and just kind of stalled out. I'm not going to be betting him for the PGA. I've wasted some money. I had Rory at the Masters and I had Rory at Quail Hollow, and he's burned me twice. So you know how it is as bettors. It's hard to go back to the well when a guy's bitten you like that. But something's just off. I don't know what it is. There's so many obviously tremendous players in this field next week at the PGA. And Rory is one of the very shortest shots on the board. I think he's in the neighborhood of 12-1. I have made 4 plays for the PGA, but I went deeper with all of them. My shortest shot was Colin Morikawa at 25-1. I got Tony Finau at 33-1, and I bet him after 36 holes in Mexico. I felt he, had what it took to win there, and he eventually did go on to win. And sure enough, his price got chopped for the PGA. He's now down to about 25. So I was fortunate to grab him at 33 before he won that tournament. And then I took Victor Hovland at 30, and then a long bomb. And some people are going to laugh at this, but you look at this guy's stats and it's incredible what he is doing right now. And that is Ricky Fowler. I took him at 100-1. And I have all the stats in my office, but I've been charting it. Total driving, ball striking. I talked about the iron play from 175 to 200, from 200 or greater, scrambling. The ball striking statistics off the tee, strokes gained off the tee, that type of thing. What we've seen here on tour, what we'll see this week, and what we've seen for the past 2 weeks, I think it's going to be very similar to what we'll see at Oak Hill. Now, Oak Hill will be more demanding for sure, but you have to be good in those areas, really strong off the tee, really strong with your irons. And Ricky Fowler is right up there with everybody, in the top 10, the top 20, the top 40 of a lot of key categories. And all those guys are. Victor Hovland, we know he is 4th on tour in total driving, a combination of length and accuracy. Tony Finau, top 10 in strokes gained approach and top 15 in total driving. So, I mean, I think those are maybe the 2 most key statistics, just a cursory glance. Total driving and strokes gained approach, that should probably be where you start for Oak Hill. And as far as guys taking the week off, I think it's to each his own. Colin Morikawa, did not have a good week last week at Quail Hollow. I like the fact that he's taken a week off. I think that's his usual practice prior to a major. He's been a little bit off the boil as of late, so hopefully he gets it worked out. He's not the longest hitter off the tee, but he's extremely accurate, and he's one of the best iron players, if not the best iron player in the world. So I took a stab with him, and plus he's won a PGA championship before. I think he knows this type of setup as well as anyone. Victor Hovland taking the week off. Jordan Spieth is a real question mark. We've seen his odds drift as well because of injury. I mean, I don't know if he'll even be able to start. I certainly wouldn't be betting on Jordan Spieth because if he does tee off and then has to withdraw, that's a losing ticket. Back in the day, Tiger used to never play the week before a major, and Phil always did. So I think it's just to each his own, Jeff. And as far as from a betting standpoint, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head to say, is either a red flag or a green light.
I couldn't say it better myself. I got a lot of work to do here for this week. Obviously, can't wait for next week as the majors come. The hair on the what little hair I have left always seems to rise. So we're super, super excited there. Everyone watching and listening, Sean Alvarez, Marty Lowe, Brian Gaskell, we can't thank you enough. Please go follow Brady at the Las Vegas Golfer. Go follow him at Heat Strokes Pod. Go over to YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts to subscribe. It's for free. Check his work out at Golf Bet at PGA Tour. He'll be on later tonight again. I kept him all overtime on Sports Grid TV. But as for always, Brady, I'll let you wrap it up. Tell them what I missed and where they can find you.
I think you covered it, my man. At Las Vegas Golfer, at Heat Strokes Podcast on YouTube. You can also find that, of course, on Apple or Spotify, wherever you. My article for first round leaders out at PGAtour.com. And then coming up a few hours from now, we'll do it with Mr. Dubsy on Sports Grid TV.
Well, as you know, I'll be sitting there ready for, I say, the replay, because we are blessed and honored to have you here first. So
you get the first taste. I will say, in favor of Sports Grid, though, they get a more polished version, maybe, because I'm able to correct my mistakes that I made with you, right?
That's it. You get the first take here. How's that sound? And then we give Dubsy the second shot there. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer, go follow him. He does reply back if you have any questions about any golf this weekend. A lot of great information. Next week, the PGA Championship, the second major. So everyone have some fun. Stay in your lane. Stay out of the bunker. And let's cash some tickets and land in the green. We will see you soon.